All right, so let's start with the big story that we are tracking on WION at this hour. American Vice President Kamala Harris, who is presently in the Philippines, has met with the Philippine President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. And during the meeting, Kamala Harris has reaffirmed the United States' unwavering commitment, as she puts it, to the Philippines. And she also went on to state that her visit was in fact aimed at countering China and rebuilding ties with a Southeast Asian nation. Now, the US Vice President said that Washington in fact stands with Manila in the defense of international rules and norms as it relates to the South China Sea. And not only this, Kamala Harris also asserted on how an attack on the Philippine armed forces, public vessels or aircraft in the South China Sea would invoke the US Mutual Defense Commitment, in which the United States is allowed to maintain a military presence, but not a permanent one. Meanwhile, the Philippines President Marcos Ferdinand Jr. has said that he does not see a future that does not include the United States. Now, Kamala Harris's three-day visit to the Philippines also includes a stop on the islands of Palawan, which is situated on the edge of the South China Sea. The US Vice President will reiterate Washington's support for a 2016 International Tribunal ruling, which had dismissed Beijing's expansive claims in the disputed waterway. Now, China had earlier claimed some territories in the waters of Palawan and much of the South China Sea, but a 2016 ruling by a tribunal in The Hague had declared that the Chinese claims had no legal basis. Now, Kamala Harris is the highest level official from the Biden administration to visit the Philippines, and comes after a US Vice President had met with the Chinese President on the sidelines of the APEC summit in Bangkok. And apart from the security cooperation, the visit also aims to strengthen Washington's partnership with the Philippines across a whole host of different issues, including climate action, nuclear cooperation, and also food security. And to give us more perspective in terms of what this visit by Kamala Harris to the Philippines actually means for the region, we're joined in by Don McLean-Gill, who's joining us live from Manila in Philippines. Gill is, of course, the director for South and Southeast Asia, the Philippine Middle East Studies Association. Now, Mr. Gill, thank you very much indeed for joining us in this broadcast from WION. The question that I want to ask you is this. Now, Kamala Harris' visit to the Philippines, of course, is likely to stoke up tensions further in the South China Sea. Tell us about what the American plan actually is. Is this an extension of what the Americans intend to do as a part of their contained China policy?
Well, first of all, thank you so much for having me. It is a true pleasure. And the question is very important. We have to understand that the visit of the Vice President, the U.S. Vice President to the Philippines, after a series of high-level engagements between Washington and Manila, indicate the Philippines' growing significance, of course, in U.S. foreign policy at a time when the shifts in the global distribution of power continue to alter the security architecture of the Indo-Pacific. Now, the Philippines is a growing middle power that is not only a treaty ally of the U.S., but also a growing developing partner of China. Now, amid the unfolding U.S.-China power competition, President Biden has pushed for a more proactive presence in Southeast Asia and the greater Indo-Pacific, which can be seen, through the White House's national security strategy. In this context, bolstering relations with key allies such as the Philippines is pivotal in preserving the rules-based order in the Indo-Pacific.
Right, it's very interesting that you mentioned the rules-based order. So whose rules are these? Are these the rules that are dictated by the Americans? Because the Chinese, for what they see in terms of these visits, they would say that the United States is actually meddling in a neighborhood that is not anywhere close to China. And the United States has also got into these understandings and alliances where it has got a very close partnership with countries like South Korea, with Japan, and also other countries within the region. And through this, the Chinese would say that the United States is effectively encircling the region, which China asserts is a part of its presence to project power. Do you see a conflict between the United States and China would be inevitable because of this pivot to Asia policy by the United States?
Right, thank you. And we have to understand that you were absolutely correct. We have to understand that international politics is not only about material power capabilities, but also the differences in state perception, particularly between and among major and great powers. So we can see that the United States seeks to preserve the order that was established post-World War II, norms and institutions, democratically led institutions and ways and processes of engagement. While as China, we can see on the other hand, is pushing for some of what we can call the Global Security Initiative, which seeks to counter any exclusive arrangements, particularly in Asia, and really spearhead the whole idea of Asia for Asians. Now, with this, however, China has also cemented its position as an engine of growth in Asia, particularly in Southeast Asia, where we can see as a locus of its emerging power, its material power. So what we can see is there's a clash of perception. But however, this comes at the expense of the developing world, the smaller states in Asia, who will have to pick sides.
Absolutely indeed, because that of course is the big concern, is it not? Because in the clash of the big giants, it may be the smaller nations that in fact end up paying the price. Thank you very much indeed, Mr. Gill, for joining us and giving us that perspective there.
Thank you so much.
WION is now available in your country. Download the app now and get all the news on the move.